Hello, everyone, and welcome. Coming up this week, we're going to talk about the top 5 DVC resorts based on your votes on this week's episode of the DVC Show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the DVC Show, coming to you from the Bob Varley Studio in Orlando, Florida. I'm your host, Pete Werner, joined this week by my good friends, Mr. Paul Krieger.
Hey, everybody.
Mr. Derek DeBoer.
Hey now, good morning.
Ms. Sue Saunders.
Hi there, how you doing?
And, of course, our producer, Mr. Corey Fiasconaro.
Welcome home.
Looking more and more like enlightened mountain man every week.
And I'm telling Pete, he calls me a tree-hugging hippie. I'm coming in with the man bun one day, and then he says he's going to cut it off, and I said that would make good content, so
it was.
Stay tuned.
And just before we get started with our show today, folks, just a reminder, this show is brought to you by the World of DVC, which includes DVCResaleMarket.com, which is where you can buy your resale contracts or do what I'm doing right now and sell some of your resale contracts. And there'll be a show in the not too distant future where I will judge Derek. So DVCResaleMarket.com, because Derek's my guy, right? Derek's my guy. When I need something,
Is it hot in here?
I reach out to Derek.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. You can own Pete Werner's used timeshare.
That's right. Right.
Oh, one just sold.
If only it worked like that. So DVCResaleMarket.com, buy and sell your DVC resale contracts. Of course, MoneraFinancial.com, who I have taken to calling the crack dealers of the DVC world because they make it so ridiculously easy to finance your DVC resale purchase. And I know this because I've used them for that. And it is really scary at 2 o'clock in the morning when you just are in a funk and like, oh, look at that contract. Oh, I'm approved. So MoneraFinancial.com and DVCRentalStore.com. Great place to rent out your points if you have some extra points you're not using, or if you want to try DVC before you buy. You'll be able to rent out points, stay in a great DVC resort, and pay a lot less than what Disney is going to charge you if you do it through them. So that's that. And this is all. This like is crazy today already. This is our, we record 4 shows a month, right? And we do it all in one round. And this is the first one. And I'm going to tell you something. It took me a half hour to get to the plug.
Scared to see show number 4.
So I don't
Show
know.
number 4 is going to be a good one, ladies and gentlemen. Tune in.
This is why, because that's the stuff that obviously we don't put up on our YouTube channel, but we do share it with our Patreon supporters, Diz Unplugged, or patreon.com/DizUnplugged.
You got it.
So, okay, enough plugs. So we wanted to talk about the poll results because we got a lot of votes.
Yeah.
A lot of votes came in. And people voting on their favorite DVC resort. And we decided just to focus on the top 5 because the conversation can go on for a month and a half if we're doing all of them. But also, Paul dug up the last one of these polls that we did back in 2019, and there's some interesting differences. Oh, you didn't know about
Interesting,
that?
yeah.
I didn't know Paul was so savvy with the research over there.
Wow.
The internet is amazing. No, this just sort of, we threw this out there. Sometimes it can be, a little bit too vague to ask the question, like, what's the best DVC resort? But it's interesting to see the comparison between 2019, 2 years ago, and now, and how much some of these opinions have changed. And
Yes.
yet how some of them have also, some things have also stayed in the top 5. Some resorts continue to linger around a little bit. But the number one thing before we get into the numbers is that so many people were commenting on this. We asked them to share, why is your vote for this specific resort? And we got so many amazing comments. And that's what I think is the beauty of Disney Vacation Club, is that there is no best resort. Well, we're going to put a number to
Yes,
it.
there is.
Yes, there is. But
And I will tell you what they are. But first, we're going to listen to what you think. I'm going to indulge you.
But it's amazing to hear everyone's reasoning behind why they chose their resort, and it just shows to what we've said time and time again is to each their own, so to say. You know, what you love is different than what I love.
And there is something for everybody.
Yep.
There really is something for everybody.
And that's sort of it was wonderful to see the engagement. Like Pete said, we got well over 3,000 votes on this poll, which is a huge number for a poll of this sort. So yeah.
And okay, so let's talk about this year's number 5. And I gotta be honest, I'm kind of surprised. Riviera Resort coming in at number 5. Of course, in 2019 there was no Riviera Resort. So you think in 2 years, with all of the speculation and consternation around Riviera with the resale restrictions. In 2 years, it's number 5.
Yeah. Yep.
It's number 5. And you know what I did was I took a look at what these properties are going for on the resale market, on DVCResaleMarket.com. And you can pick up a Riviera contract for like between $149 and $175 right now. It's not going to be there long, but I noticed there's a $149 Riviera. And I was like, wow. Derek, are you surprised at the price Riviera is getting?
Honestly, no. Riviera to me has always been like the Grand Floridian. That the people that love the Riviera, they love the Riviera. And then the people that don't like it maybe have not even stayed there yet, or they just don't like it for the sole purpose of the restrictions that Disney has put on the Riviera. That has turned a lot of people away. There is almost every single time that someone reaches out to us about a Riviera contract, Sue can attest, we always want to remind them and say, listen, your offer was accepted, but we just want to remind you before we move forward that these Riviera points can only ever be used at the Riviera. Now, of course, if they come from this show, they're smart, they're educated, they say, of course, I already know that. But there's some folks that maybe don't know that.
Yeah.
And we've had quite a few deals.
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't quite aware of that fact. I think I need a different contract per se. So it's definitely I don't want to say love it or hate it type thing, but it really is. And when it comes to the price, again, that's what we tell people when they're looking to buy direct is always, listen, if you love the Riviera, just so you know, down the road, should you need to sell your contract, and again, everyone always says, I'm never going to sell it. Okay, well, about 6,000 people a year that we deal with feel differently because you don't ever buy a contract planning on selling it. Those restrictions are going to hit you, right? And so people are buying it for $200 some a point. Down the road, they sell it. Like Pete said, I'm getting 140, 150, 160. And we've even had sellers, Sue and I, that when we tell them, okay, we're going to list your contract, just so you know, this is the approximate market value, they're taken aback
blown
by
away.
it. They're like, what?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? I paid $200 a point for it like a year ago. So it's a very interesting one. But again, it's a love it or hate it.
And it's funny because I'm having the kind of the opposite. I mentioned I'm selling some of my contracts. Nothing's wrong. I'm not bailing. Okay, this isn't time for a rush. I'm just changing some things around. And, you know, keep in mind that I only started buying my contracts about 2 years ago. And I'm looking at how much more they're going for right now than they were when I bought 2 years ago. 2 years. We're not talking about I bought, back in the Stone Age. And so this is like if you bought direct, you're not getting direct prices. No. Maybe, if you bought direct at Grand Californian,
yes,
then yes.
Yes.
Then you're retiring.
Oh my gosh.
That's different. But so I was very surprised. It got 9.5% of the vote, 298 votes for Riviera. So it was not insignificant out of a total of about 1,700 votes cast overall. So now number four on our list actually moved up a spot from where it was in 2019, and that is the Polynesian.
Yay.
With 9.6, just a hair. There was 4 votes separated Riviera and Polynesian. Think about that for a second.
That's not a lot.
That was all my family members because of the lighting that they have at the Polynesian rooms.
And those are going from on DVCResaleMarket.com. Those are going for about anywhere from 168 to 220. Now, obviously, at 220, you're talking about small point contracts.
Right.
The small point contracts go for a lot more money. The more points you buy, the less it tends to be. But number 4, Polynesian. And I'm not surprised to see Polynesian in the top 5, and I'm not surprised that it moved up one. I'm surprised Polynesian and Riviera are neck and neck.
Yeah.
Yep.
And, I wonder, does this validate DVC's decision to put these resale restrictions in? That it's worked out for them? Do you think?
I don't think so. I think a lot of people who like the Riviera, in the comments I read, they love the location, they love the restaurants there, and they like the ability that they can get on the Skyliner. So I think it offers, it's unique where it's located, and I think it offers a lot of amenities to it, and that's what they're liking about the place. But I didn't see a lot of, or comments on there about the pricing on that specifically. Most of it was because of you can get the value type of studio, you could go to Topolino's, there's a whole bunch of other things that you can do there. So
There's a couple things that really stick out to me with Riviera. The first thing being Topolino's being arguably one of the best restaurants on property.
Agreed.
But the other thing that really sticks out in my mind is in comparison with the other DVC resorts, which obviously have Disney theming, it's a lot more subtle. So you look at the images in the rooms and such, and they have at the Grand Floridian, they'll have a little cutout of Mary Poppins, in a black and white silhouette, but it's not really Disney in your face.
Right.
Whereas Riviera, they have art everywhere that's Little Mermaid, Tangled. So a family that's coming with kids, the kids are probably going to be pretty hyped. They're oh, it's Ariel. Oh, it's Rapunzel. And that's probably going to get them really jazzed. And the whole family's oh, this was a great experience. Riviera is my favorite.
But also from the standpoint of adults, that artwork where they're doing Disney art, but they're doing it in the style of the masters.
Right.
They're doing it in Van Gogh. They're doing it in Degas. So there's...
And the fact that you can buy it while you're at the resort,
Yes.
they knew what they were doing.
That's stupid.
They're printing money.
It blows me away that they're not doing that at any other Disney Vacation Club property yet. Disney, if you're listening, just sell all of the artwork at your resorts. I mean, you'll make millions, I promise. That was just an ingenious idea. Amy and I own 2 prints ourselves, and as we were talking earlier, we were just in the process of packing up and moving down here, and there was this existential crisis of protecting the Riviera artwork and making sure we packed it so that it did not get busted or break on the way.
It's absolutely beautiful.
Put the dogs on the roof, but the Riviera artwork in the truck.
Oh, now I'm going to get calls from the SPCA.
Oh, that's like a Chevy Chase movie.
Yeah. All right. Number 3, dropping 1 spot from 2019, but still in the top 5, Boardwalk Villas.
Makes sense.
10.8% of the vote, 341 votes. Currently selling on the resale market for $125 to $155 a point. So this is pretty much the most cost effective, at least from the price per point, with the exception of our number 1. Our number 1 is also very similar in its price point, but Boardwalk, the second DVC resort built at Walt Disney World. So it's been around a while, but its proximity to Epcot
And studios. Sorry
and
about
Hollywood
that.
Studios. Yeah.
It's great to see a 2042 resort sort of hang with the top 5 this. And the only reason I can see it dropping is, over the past year or so in staying there, it's getting to that point where the rooms, you sort of know they're in the need for a refresh.
Right.
They're just at that point where, it's about time. You can tell the wear and tear is getting up there a little bit. And the resort as a whole is getting old. So earlier this year, I know a pipe burst on the second floor and like flooded. It flooded the entire. Is it the Wyland Gallery that's downstairs?
Yeah.
They had to completely gut and remodel that store because of the flooding. So the resort's getting a little bit older. That's probably why it's maybe dropping a little bit, but still my all-time favorite. So.
Yeah. I mean, to me, there's nothing better. And I bought the Boardwalk, I think, back in 1999. I think I paid like $80 a vacation club point for it.
Wow.
Which is crazy. And we hadn't even stayed there, right? So now every time I go, whether I'm just visiting friends or going out to dinner, that feeling that you get when you pull in to the porte cochere at the Boardwalk and you see the Boardwalk sign, then you walk through the lobby and you see that amazing chandelier, which, Paul, do you remember what that chandelier was called? Remember, I think it was in our trivia contest. Hippocampus or something like that. Yeah. And you see that chandelier.
Hippocampus is a part of the brain.
Right.
So is it they've named the chandelier?
Either that or part of my brain's not working correctly.
Okay.
And you walk out the back door and you're on that back patio and you look at that great lawn and you look over and see the beach club and you see the yacht club and you see the Boardwalk and so many, Epcot's over there to the right, the studios are to the left. There's no place like it. I mean, I get goosebumps just even talking about it, just because I love that resort. And like Paul said, it's so refreshing to see it in the top 5. And I don't see it ever leaving the top 5 because we tell people again see value in different ways. So some people come to us and say, Sue, they'll say, Derek, they'll say, I'm liking the Boardwalk, but I'm not a big fan of that 2042 stuff. I said, well, do you always want to stay at the Boardwalk? Well, yeah, that's primarily where I want to stay. Then I'm like, you need to buy the Boardwalk.
Yep.
You don't want to live the rest of these, I don't care, 20 plus years in disappointment at 7 months when you go online and the Boardwalk is booked. You don't want to have to take your second choice. So knowing that you can get into the Boardwalk, that you can have that for festivals at Epcot that run, 800 days a year. There's always a different festival at Epcot.
No, it's never not a festival.
Never not a festival. It's an amazing choice. So I love to see
the event is when there isn't a festival.
And then you're like, oh, there's not a festival?
Epcot's No Festival 2022.
There'd be like 2 people that show up to Epcot.
All right. Number 2 on the list, going up 1 spot from 2019, Bay Lake Tower. Bay Lake Tower got 11.2% of the vote. And that's going for between $158. This is the most expensive one. Well, Polynesian's up. Yeah, no, Polynesian's the most expensive. This is the second most expensive. Bay Lake Tower going between $158 and $199 a point. So when you consider how long Bay Lake's been around at this point, the fact that it's still commanding those prices, again, it is
location,
walking distance to the Magic Kingdom.
Yep.
And it has all the room sizes.
Yeah.
It has all as great as the Poly is, and I love the Poly. Bay Lake Tower has every single room size available.
Yep. And the 1 bedroom has 2 bathrooms.
That's right. It does.
Right. Yeah.
That's right. I didn't realize that either.
Yeah. So that's a really good deal when you have kids and you're bringing them there. But I have a lot of people that will call up and ask about Bay Lake. And if they have small kids, and they don't know where they want to be, to me, that's the one I recommend to them is Bay Lake because of its proximity to the Magic Kingdom. It's the first monorail stop on the way back at 12 noon when the kids are having a meltdown, need to be in the pool. And you can take the boat from there over to Fort Wilderness and see the horses or some of the petting area. You can go over to Wilderness
Or leave the
Lodge.
children in the woods if they're having a meltdown. It's magical. It's a magical place.
So
Lock them in that second bathroom, Sue.
But there's a lot of things that you can do. And for small kids, because that's the park that they're going to be at the most, that's what I recommend if you've got really small kids.
And no surprise.
Nope.
What is at the top of the list? With 12.3% of the vote, up 3 spots from 2019. This is the biggest mover from the last poll. Animal Kingdom Lodge, 12.3%. And do you think part of that reason is the fact that price points here on the resale market are ranging from $129 to $162?
Definitely.
So it is more accessible. Plus, someone once said, it's got a friggin' savannah.
Yeah.
Some wise man once said.
Some Jersey guy.
I've seen that on a T-shirt.
It's got a friggin' savannah. I mean, that has to have something to do with it. It does, in fact, have a friggin' savannah.
Personally, I think objectively, Animal Kingdom Lodge is the best resort on Walt Disney World property. And that's not even to say like, oh, it's my favorite or if it's your favorite. But the way I think about it is if you took Animal Kingdom Lodge and just what that resort had to offer, pick it up and put it somewhere in the country where there's nothing going on. There's no theme park. There's nothing. It's just this awesome resort with really good dining, really cool safari activities, and a friggin' savannah. People would come. That would be an attraction in itself. I don't know I'd say that about any of the other properties.
We've said this
Right.
said this on shows before that when and this is kind of what I do when I'm reviewing resorts. Does this resort stand on its own
Yes.
if it wasn't near a theme park? Now, Bay Lake Tower. I love Bay Lake Tower, but one of the big reasons I love Bay Lake Tower is I can walk to the Magic Kingdom.
Yep.
Right.
Am I going out of my way to stay there if it's in Cleveland?
No.
Probably not. Boardwalk, maybe. Maybe. The entertainment, the
True.
whole
Yeah.
vibe,
Right.
maybe. Polynesian, well, I'll go to Alani,
Right.
and that's Polynesian done right.
Right.
But Animal Kingdom Lodge, above all other
Yeah.
It's so unique.
resorts, I think really fits that bill. What I do, one thing I want to mention that I do find interesting as a difference between 2019 and now, the number one resort in 2019 was Beach Club.
Oh,
And it's
Yeah.
not even in the top 5.
I was surprised. Very
Well,
surprised.
I think that I think the wear
Yeah.
on those rooms
Yeah.
has been more pronounced. The only place I think it's been more pronounced is
Boulder Ridge.
Bridge. Yes. Yes.
And I think DVC needs to think about this stuff, because in 2 years in a poll, I mean, granted, this is not done scientifically, but in a poll done in their highest affinity group,
Yeah.
it went from
Yeah.
where was it this year?
It dropped to 8th place this
Eighth
year
place.
overall, and
From
I think
first to 8th in 2 years.
and equally interesting is the other two that sort of jumped above it on the poll as well is Copper Creek and Old Key West. So that's pretty profound for a resort that has always rivaled Boardwalk in its allure.
Right.
I mean, you've got Stormalong Bay there. It's been a very big family-friendly resort. It's right there near Epcot and Hollywood Studios. All the same things that we said about Boardwalk apply.
And just like Pete said too, take away Stormalong Bay from the Beach Club. Would you honestly want to stay at the Beach Club?
No.
and add to that, Cape May just reopened and it's not good.
Well,
The smell of Cape May.
My wife loves that place with a next level love. that-
even now?
Yes. We went back not too long ago, and she's still begging to go
So
back again.
apparently there are disorders that make you predisposed to like Cape May Cafe.
Isn't there a magic candle of Cape May? that you
Oh,
can light?
oh,
I'm buying that for Paul as a housewarming present.
It's called Low Tide.
oh! I should tell him. You need to make a Cape May Cafe candle.
For April Fool's Day, maybe?
Just one.
April Fool?
Yeah,
one.
just
one.
one.
One for the Krieger house. Oh no.
So why don't you give them the whole top 10? Because I don't have it in front of me. But
Yep. Top 10. In 10th place, Grand Floridian. I was actually surprised that this, we had Poly and we had Bay Lake down or up so high, and then Grand Floridian, which is also in that same
and
area.
what do you think that's about?
I think it has to go back to, refurbishment needs again.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to get its soft goods refurbishment here. And then also in that process, they're building not building, but they're rehabbing the old building to make more DVC villas.
But I have to ask this question. When you think about the visceral attachment we have to our home resorts, are we really that fickle that in 2 years, refurbishment issues drop it up? Are we that shallow? Really? I mean, maybe we are. Maybe we are. I know I have my moments where I can be a little left vapid, but I find that very interesting. So Grand Floridian,
For
number 10.
Yeah.
For Grand Floridian this year, Grand Floridian has gone from like bottom lower part of the list, jumped all the way to my top 5. That walking path is a game changer.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, so in my mind, Bay Lake Tower always belongs in the top 5 because it's the walking distance resort to Magic Kingdom. Well, now that Grand Floridian is that too, and I did a little experiment to see how long it took. It was only like a 2-minute difference. So, I mean, now I would even say, I don't know, I like Grand Floridian a little bit more, to be honest.
Yeah, I think part of it also has to do just with size. You know, the sheer size of Grand Floridian is pretty small when you look at the total number of points they sold there and the total number of owners. So
It's the smallest one in Florida.
yeah, and those people love to stay there. So it's very hard for others to get into it and maybe experience it like others. Number 9 was Alani. 8 Beach Club. We already talked about that. 7 Old Key West. And 6 Copper Creek. So love seeing Old Key West up there. I think it got a bump from its refurbishment. You know, those rooms now are absolutely
They're beautiful.
And also think about it. I just want Disney's flagship resort comes in behind Aulani, where most people haven't gone.
Right.
And they can't give it away. They've been selling it. I think Walt was still alive when they started selling that resort.
It's $3 a point back then.
So I mean, it really does say. And again, you know, I'm not gonna cast this as being scientifically valid. We do limit it to only 1 vote per person per IP address. So I know that there's not 18 people, 18 votes from 1 person on something, but but when you see these numbers in comparison to 2019. We are comparing apples to apples. Right. Now, granted, our audience has grown since 2019, to be sure, but we are still comparing ultimately apples to apples, and seeing these changes are really kind of telling.
I'd like to give a little shout out to the 14 people that voted for Vero Beach as their favorite. God bless you. You know, keep fighting the good fight, you Vero people. 30 people for Hilton Head. You know, I've not experienced either resort. I know they're beautiful, and as we said before, to each their own.
Yeah.
You know, what you love is.
You've never been to Vero. That's right.
Vero.
No, it's coming up.
Now that you're here.
Okay, actually, right before the Diz podcast cruise, we're going to go there for 2 nights.
Awesome.
And spend a little time there. So
It's worth the trip. It's worth the trip.
What room?
I have to get out there.
What kind of room?
I think we're doing an oceanfront studio or whatever the
the
in-
oceanfront
in-room,
in the
in-room.
That's
Good,
what
good.
that's what you go
I
after.
want one of those
Yep.
bungalow thingies, whatever it is.
Oh, the 3 bedrooms. Those are
3-bedroom
gorgeous.
cottages. Those are amazing.
Yeah, all the bedrooms on the first floor.
But I want to be by myself.
Ultimate gluttony.
I'll sleep on the balcony.
So, all right, folks, there you have it. That's our look at your votes for the best DVC resorts. And that is going to do it for our show for this week. Thanks for being with us. We'll see you again next Monday with another episode of the DVC Show. Have a great week, folks.